everyone. Welcome to a awesome day, a kind of a closing awesome day for the week of FM training, where we get together every week, every day at 1 o'clock and talk about the FileMaker platform and how you can make it better for you and your team. And so every day is like generally different topics. And so if you want to know what's coming up on our broadcast schedule, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open the FM training website and I'm going to press the button. And then we can, if you go to the FM training website, top left is a live feed from FileMaker, right? We eat our own dog food. This is data API data building, driving a custom web page. So today we have a very interesting topic, a very, very interesting topic, and a little concerning to me. So we'll get back to that in a second. Reminder, Monday is Memorial Day. We will not be here. We will not be broadcasting. Some of you are overseas. A lot of you are in Europe. And so just a reminder to the folks in the United States, it's a big time holiday. In fact, the traffic's already bad out in front of my house. And then Tuesday, demos with Calvin Moseman, more add-ons, talking about add-ons and doing that. Monkey Bread, the return of Monkey Bread. Christian Schmidt on Wednesday. He will be in doing some amazing stuff with PDFs. Unnatural acts with PDFs. I'm not sure. We can maybe get more detail from him on that. Then Thursday, it was suggested that we do a command line conversation about what you can do with your FileMaker server. That's your on-prem server. What kind of command line options are there? What can you do with the command line, and how might that be useful to you? The biggest one I can think of is in-flight emergencies. If you're flying your airplane, big airliner, and the right engine's on fire, what do you do? Sometimes command line can be used to put out the fire. It's pretty awesome. And so then, of course, we have DevBird Friday next week. We might resuscitate our game show day, right? We've done the game show, the Jackbox thing. It might be fun. We might do that. So we're kicking that around. If you jump in the broadcast or you on the chat, you can ask questions. We will respond to those in real time. We are broadcasting in high definition on YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. So we're everywhere. We are everywhere. So today is an interesting topic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome Heidi Porter and Chris Moyer. I'm going to close that. I'm going to find my Slack, wherever that went. And they are right here. I'm going to pop them up in the window. There they are. They're hiding there, ready to go. Welcome. Yes. And so there's over the last number of years, there's been this new terminology that's come around. There's always a new term, a new fangled thing that you have to have. And it's like low code, no code or low code. And what's really interesting about it is that it's basically describing what FileMaker's been for over 30 years. Back before the low code was invented by a journalist, I think, in 2014. And so there's been this conversation about it. And of course, then you have companies coming out saying, hey, we should make software for that. And then not either they didn't do their market research, or they figured they could knock FileMaker off the playing field, right? Well, Claris, with the FileMaker platform, has been in business for over 30 years, like 33 years. And it's got a huge following. It's got a huge ecosystem. So the question is, when these other companies come up, these startups come up, what do they offer? And I haven't, obviously, okay, for like a little secret, I haven't looked at this in like 18 months or a year or two. And I was like, what if we have Moyer and Heidi on, and they say that there's like a much better product that we should use? Like, what happens? So it's a little stressful for me, right? Because you could be like, this could be the last FileMaker broadcast. Now we're going to do broadcast on something else. And I was like, damn, what happens, right? So I invited them here. They are kind of experts in this market, this competitive market space. And I've seen a little bit of what they have planned. Is pretty awesome. So if you have questions along the way, Timothy from Dublin, Ohio, Michelle from Montreal, Nathan from there, in Indy Vitek, Nathan on the Twitch side. So make sure, feel free to give us your first name and the city you are from. John Haggerty's there. Welcome, John. Cool. So, Chris, why don't you tell us about you and Heidi? What do you guys do, right? Because you're like a serious, Chris is the smartest person here, right? Chris Moyer and Heidi, they're very smart people. So tell us, what do you do in life?
I'll let the smartest person here go.
We develop custom apps in FileMaker, right?
Yeah, we've been slinging databases for 26 years, I guess. So.
I got to write that down. Slinging databases. I got to write that down. Like clever little terminology that I've not. Okay, write that down. Slinging database. I keep going. That's good. So what else do you do?
So way back in the day, in the early 90s, I was a sales engineer for Claris out of Chicago, covered 14 states. So, originally I was a generalist, and go around to these places and all the questions are about FileMaker. And so just getting shot at all the time, I just picked up a bunch of FileMaker chops, and in '94 went out and just started writing FileMaker databases full time and have been doing it ever since.
Cool. Well, it's very exciting. So Chris was one of the founding partners of the Soliant, and of course, then like any partnership in business, most of the time there's fraught with mayhem and danger, and so he's not part of that. He created his own team with the Moyer Group, and Chris is frankly quite famous.
Actually, Soliant is a spin-off of the Moyer Group.
Oh, spin-off of the Moyer Group. Okay, that one. I phrased that incorrectly, so
That's okay.
Not to aggravate anyone. So Nathan is from Cape Town, South Africa. So welcome, Nathan. Right. So Chris is a big-time presenter. He wrote books back when books were popular. He was writing books. Now I write books, and no one cares. But yes. You care, right? So the question is what kind of competitive analysis did you do? Should we all be fearful? What did you find out? And then along the way, people watching this, let us know your feedback, because to be honest with you, clearly, I think along the way, we're going to find that there are things that competitors do that probably are good. And obviously, since we're here every day talking about FileMaker, we already know what FileMaker is not really great at, right? The product, right? I mean, it's not 100% for everything, right? And so the question is, where do the other products kind of fit in, or do they fit in, or were they good? And then if you didn't use those products, why didn't you use them? I remember Amy Sheely, one of our people on Discord here, talking about Airtable or something. I really wish she was here. She's not here right now. Megan, if she's around, why don't you grab her so you get the comments from her? Because she was looking at Airtable and decided that FileMaker was superior, and I'd love to hear that conversation. Chris, you want to start with your dog and pony show a little bit?
You want me to reiterate?
Yeah, go ahead and
so
level set.
The two goals are, you can always look at where you can do better. So, where can FileMaker do better when we look at the competitors? And then where is FileMaker way better? I'm getting an echo. Way better than these competitors we're looking at. So, where they can level up and where they're way better. So
you guys going to switch to your computer screen and walk us through this?
We are.
Yeah.
Can you see?
I see your face is what I see.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me click that last button there.
There we go. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Dun, 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 dun.
The thing of beauty. So, yeah, I mean, FileMaker has a long history of being antagonized by IT. And, in years gone by, there wasn't a whole lot to substitute for it. It's like, well, what are you going to replace it with? And they didn't have a good answer for that. But, in the last 5 to 10 years, there's a ton of competitors coming out of the woodwork. And so forewarned is forearmed. And if someone's coming at you with an Airtable or a Bubble or an Appian or whatever it is, and you know something about it, you can say, have you looked at these things side by side? And the answer would probably be no. And I think it's instructive for people to be familiar with what there's a bunch of them. So we're not going to go through all of them exhaustively today. We've picked 2 or 3 that we're going to look at. But we
started with the A's and B's.
Yeah, it's an alphabet soup now. So we figure let's start with the ones that start with A and B. So.
Well, it used to be just Access, right? It was Access, right? Access.
Yeah, Access, and of course the the spreadsheets. So
yep.
Yeah, here are the ones we picked out today. So Airtable, Appian, Bubble. If anyone wants to fire up a web browser and take a look at some of these sites, you feel free to do so.
Okay. And then we also got some input from Dan Weiss of Datasol, looked at OutSystems, Mendix, ReadyBlock. So we'll talk about that near the end.
Cool.
All right.
And then
okay.
And once again, as we go along, we have questions. People have questions or ideas, or you're confused. Post them, write them up in there. Let us know. We will reply. So, yeah, what is an IDE?
Okay, so my position has long been that FileMaker's secret sauce is the UI that you use to actually build stuff. And so, in other platforms, this is typically referred to as an IDE. It's an integrated development environment. Right here is where you would actually write your code. Here's your folder structure where you have a whole bunch of files that you're going through. And then you actually have a terminal in here. So if you need to compile it or show debug code or what have you, you can sort of look at a whole bunch of streams in one go. It's sort of like flying a helicopter, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's multiple things at one time. So is
Yeah.
it? I mean, this reminds me of Xcode a little bit. For those of you who played with that, so
Yeah, Xcode, Android Studio, they all have this similar look to it. And so, FileMaker's IDE is different because we don't have a text editor. If you want to do scripting, you actually pick scripts from a list. So that's different, but it's the same concept. So if someone's talking about IDEs, it's just good to sort of have your mental map of what is FileMaker's IDE versus what is some of these other tools' IDEs. And then the other thing is that on Windows, Microsoft has this, it's sort of a presentation framework. It's called the MMC, the Microsoft Management Console. And you can snap in different things if you need to do security or if you need to do, I don't know, scheduled events or what have you. Whatever you're trying to do, they'll present you with this sort of 3-pane structure to drop controls into. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of these other tools sort of map to this paradigm. They seem to have like a 3-column look to some of their interface. And I think this is serviceable if you're trying to maintain a server, but if you're trying to write applications, I don't think it's a good look. So I think a lot of these have terrible look and feel. But we'll show you one that I think leaves something to be desired. Airtable actually has a nice look and feel. Scott Rose did a really nice overview at FM Disc back in December on this, and so I have the URL for that YouTube video. So we didn't want to do a deep dive or even go into the application there just because he did such a nice job with it. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. That content's out there, it's available. We did pull some of the points that he does. So Scott does both Airtable consulting and FileMaker consulting, and by his lights, FileMaker is about 100 times more powerful than Airtable. He's like, Airtable is great. It's free, has the free tier. It's fun to use. It has a nice look. It's all cloud-based. The reason he got into it is he was taking a trip to Europe and he wanted to share his itinerary with his friends so they could meet up. And so it took him minutes to set something like that up and said, on this date, I'm going to be here. On that date, I'm going to be there. He could share it with everybody. It was great. And I think that is sort of the secret sauce to Airtable is it purports to be a low-code application development tool, but it's really a database publishing or a data set publishing platform. It's like the Facebook of data. So this is what the Airtable website looks like. So a database as base, you have templates if you want to figure out, you don't know what to do with a blank sheet of paper, so you want to start with something. Then the marketplace gets into all the cool stuff people have done. And then they have the universe. And the universe is this social media portion of it where you can actually publish stuff. So they have like education on here. You can learn to use guitar and practice your guitar chords or what have you. And all of these, they look nice enough. This sort of portal, the gateway you have to these things is nice and well done and attractive. And when you get into it, you have a nice sidebar. But as soon as you start clicking on these, you realize all you're looking at is spreadsheets. So it's really a spreadsheet publisher. And it has some really nice things. It has audit logging built in. But, I think this is a fundamentally different creature than, the output of it is fundamentally different from what you'd want to do with FileMaker. So I don't even think of Airtable as a true competitor. Do you want to make some points?
Yeah, so then just going back to the differences here from FileMaker is that there is a free tier, so you can get on it. Everything has to be public there. So once you want to make it private, that's when you start paying for your business.
Okay, so I'm going to restate this. This is like a foreign concept. So they have a free tier, but if you build something in a free tier, it's automatically shared with the entire world. Is that
That's right. It is not private.
Okay, so if you want to try it out for free and actually, if you were Boeing and you're working on the new stealth drone or something and you want to try it out for a week, you
not the horse you want to ride. Yeah,
not the horse you want to ride. I got to write that one down too. That's pretty good. So it looks fun, looks great. The free is kind of I would consider that a kind of a crappy free because you can't really competitively do it with an organization without exposing yourself. What else? Cloud-based setup? What is that all about?
You can try something out with fake data or something like that. What did you just say?
He's asking about the cloud-based. So yeah, it's pretty painless I wouldn't call it frictionless, but it's pretty darn close to just get in there and start knocking in some fields. It's very similar. If you're starting with a blank sheet of paper, it's very similar to cooking up a spreadsheet and saying, okay, I'm going to add a new column. This is going to be a last name field or an email field or something like that. And it'll ask you what type of data is going to go in it. And off you go. So if you can, set up a spreadsheet on Google Apps, you could certainly use Airtable. It's about that simple.
So is this the limited? Is this actually a legit punch list of what it doesn't do? Because this is like a pretty serious list.
It's even longer than that. I was just sort of taking the highlights. So they have like a crude PDF support, but Airtable doesn't support it natively. You have to integrate with another tool that might be in. So there's this, I don't even know what to call it, like the Home Depot of add-ons for Airtable. It's called Integromat. And so you can link to there, and it's like, you want to do barcode reading, well, you might need to get something from Integromat. If you want to do PDF support, they have what they call low-end basic PDF support, but there is no what you see is what you get like we're used to in FileMaker. If I, put a header in a certain spot and print it, it's going to print in that spot. So that fidelity from what you get in the database to what you get in your printed output just isn't there with pretty much all of these tools.
Wow. Okay. And then of course, Heidi was pointing out that they had. I have yet to see this, but they have kind of a really high energy marketing operation there, right?
Well, and these onboarding parties, that I'd love to see Andy Lacate's out there doing these onboarding parties because he's so passionate about FileMaker. And you get on their parties, teaching you how to use Airtable.
They are not unlike the vibe you have here.
Yeah.
Agent Chevy asked the question, so when you say Airtable free account is public, you mean your database is only accessible to the people you share it with, right? Question mark?
Your database is available to anybody. Yes, you can share it with people so they can find it, but other people can find it as well.
Yeah, so when they say it's to the public, it's the whole freaking planet, Agent Chevy, right? Yes? Everyone.
So, there are probably tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of databases up there. And so there's some, security through obscurity because you'd have to, look through a haystack to find that needle. But yeah, there's nothing keeping people from looking at it.
Well, but the other thing is when you share it, you're inviting someone to try out Airtable so they can go do whatever they want with it as well. So we've got invites from people to try out Airtable.
Yeah, so that's why I brought this up and I had you clarified it. The people here are having a hard time wrapping their head around it. So yeah, imagine that you got FileMaker Pro for free and you built a solution on it, and because you got it for free, it automatically shares your database with everyone on the planet and the world. So Stu says security through obscurity. Yeah, that's the idea. Where if someone doesn't know like for example, this YouTube, I could say, hey, there's this video that Scott Rose did or whatever. But if you didn't have a search ability and you didn't have this little block of code right here, this little string, you wouldn't actually be able to find the video. So that's security through obscurity. That's where you say, oh, I'm going to put my FileMaker server up on the cloud and no one will know the URL, so no one will get into it, so I don't have to put a password on it. Except that people write applications that actually hunt through domains and URLs and IPs, and they will hunt your stuff down and find it and open it up, right? They're called robots. You ought to see, just for a moment, just to help everyone out here. I know this, I don't want to get off topic too much, but I have a lot of static addresses on some Macs that I have in our office, and I don't run a firewall against these Macs just because there's nothing that secret on them, and I watch it very carefully. And if you turn on the logging, you just turn on the logging of these machines and see what's going on, like everything the computer's doing. The computers are constantly being assaulted by robots from China and from Russia and from everywhere else. And it's like this person tried password 1234, this person password this, and it's like literally bang, 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 this fast. In fact, this machine right now that I'm on right now is being attacked like this. You hear my fingers clicking? That's a Russian hacker. I'm not making this up. It's that dangerous out there, right? So understand, right? Security through obscurity might have worked 15, 20 years ago with ISDN lines and stuff like that, dial-up modem, but anymore, So.
Yeah, it'll eventually get discovered.
Yeah. So sorry about that, but these are good questions people have. So.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too long on Airtable because there's a really nice, a very thorough overview that people should check out. So Let's move on to the next letter in the alphabet, which is Appian. So that's Airtable. So Appian. So by the way, one thing I want to point out about Airtable is look at that valuation. They're still privately held, but they'd probably like Apple to buy them or somebody. $5.7 billion valuation. These people have muscle. I see their marketing around. If you ever Google it once, you're going to get inundated with Airtable ads. So they're going to come after you with marketing messaging. Appian is sort of a similar animal. It's actually a publicly traded company, $6.48 billion valuation. They really took off stock-wise when the pandemic pundits started saying, hey, all these low-code applications are really going to do well in the pandemic. And so they skyrocketed, but they've since lost 60% of their market cap since the beginning of the year. So they say they're going to rebound, but they've had a roller coaster of a year like a lot of people have. When you look at their website, which we can take a peek at right here, right up front, they say, we build enterprise apps. So they're, very different from Airtable in that they are targeted at enterprise business low-code applications. So they want to be in businesses. They don't particularly care about your guitar chords, and they don't want to tell anyone about them. They want business customers. And so let's see. One interesting thing about these guys is that they have robotic process automation. So they basically have a Claris Connect-like tool embedded in the application. So if you think of the FileMaker platform, this is a pretty close analog in terms of its structural components.
The Claris platform.
With the Claris platform, yeah.
Claris Connect and FileMaker together. Yeah.
So, okay, so that's the financial stuff. Heidi came across this right before we jumped on here. You want to talk about this event or this organization?
So these are the kind of events when Claris Connect came out, I was looking at competitors, and people are out here. This is a 2-day event. You can also watch it on demand. And you see like Zoho Creatos here, Appian's here. It would be awesome to see FileMaker here. And these other competitors are out there on these things, probably canned demos, but people are listening.
Okay, so let's take a look at Appian. What does this thing even look like? So it is entirely in a web browser. This is just from their splash screen. If we rolled down below the fold, we would have seen this. So they have DevOps, which we talked about last week, integrated into the thing so you can sort of stage and deploy the thing. They say they're build once, run anywhere, but it's a web application. The components are funky. And I want to get into this. And if you look at this, they talk about Appian objects. And they use some terms that we would find familiar, like data type. We think we know what a data type is, or integration, a query rule, stuff like that. Some of these terms sound familiar, but as I was going through it, when Heidi and I were looking at it, they use familiar terms that are familiar to us in an unfamiliar way. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But this is just sort of, here, I'll give you a full screen here. So this is a customer management application. And this does not look too far off from, traditional code that has a folder full of files and stuff like that. So this is one app, and it has models in it, and icons in it, and rules in it, and design documents in it. And it's just like this pile of things, which is a very different look from FileMaker. FileMaker is this holistic, unit that is an application unto itself. And so this is a very different experience for someone who's used to the world of FileMaker. And so they can back-end their system by anything. So if you have Oracle out there, or DB2, or Salesforce, or what have you, they'll connect to it. And so it's not too different from FileMaker's ESS functionality. We can connect to MySQL. We can connect to SQL Server, what have you. And so the sort of starting point, say, where's our data going to live? You say, well, I'm going to connect to this database out here. So there's a little database connector. What language are we using? And we go on from there, and it'll say, okay, we've connected to a database. Here are all the tables in that database. And so this is not unlike the table view in FileMaker. So far, these look, it's different, but it's familiar ground. So we kind of recognize it. And so then this is a particular table where we did a select all from customer. And so already we're getting into SQL, which, I say isn't really low code. But you know,
low code my ass. That's
yeah,
that's
low code adjacent maybe, but not low code.
yeah. It's that I mean this is what we call pro code when you start professionally coding, and if you're a SQL kind of person, then you're automatically you moved right out of low code. So wait. So they keep saying they're low code, but they're throwing SQL at us. Is that what's
Yeah,
happening?
it gets worse.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
and
okay. I'm already
like
offended, but yeah.
that happens.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And so just to sort of keep up with, you know, how these contrast with FileMaker. So FileMaker has a table view. This is more or less a table view. It's a little different. They've jammed the description field all up, but sure, it's a table view. And then we go into customer management. We say, let's make something new. And now we get into data type, data store, and record type, which, you know, you think you know what those are, but as we get into it, we don't really know what those are. So it says, let's make a data type. And when I personally, or Heidi, thinks of data types, we think text field, number field, you know, date, time, timestamp, something like that. That's not what they consider a data type. So for them, a customer is a data type. And that data type is composed of not only these fields, it might be composed of some other tables. Maybe it's the name and some addresses and some contact details. And so it's this sort of holistic thing that contains a bunch of pieces of data that they call a data type. So that's different from FileMaker land, certainly. And then to create your data type, the first thing you have to do is create a data store. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought we already connected to a database. What do we need a data store for? So now this is this sort of container for your data type. So confusing? I'm confused. So we go to the data, and I don't want to dwell on these because it'll resolve in a minute here. So just allow yourself to be confused and imagine yourself, you know, have your IT people, you know, if your IT people are going, Appian's the cat's pajamas, let's go to that. We don't need FileMaker anymore. So explain data stores to me. Explain, you know, record types and stuff. And so here we have something that looks, you know, pretty similar to our field view in FileMaker. This is the customer data type. It has properties and fields. It's like, okay, I think I know where I am. And then it says make a record type. It's like, we just made a data type. What do we need a record type for? Record type is also about a customer. And this is a synced record type for customers. It's very important to set this up. And also when you're creating this, let's call it an object that is customer, you also set up security. The security is sort of embedded in this object thing, unlike FileMaker, where the security sort of lives at the table or the file level, sorry.
Yeah, file level.
And you configure it, you know, these security privileges apply to these layouts and these scripts and these tables and these fields, and you can sort of do it all in one go. And here, it's sort of down in the bushes. It's like very detailed, and it seems inefficient if you have something of any complexity to be cooking up security with each one of these little modules that you're creating. So this seems painstaking to me. And so, by the way, let me just sort of zoom out. The goal here is for us to create a single layout that has a list of customers on it who are active. So we're going through all these steps. And you can imagine in FileMaker, we'd say, we have our customer table, because they started with a pre-populated table. So I have a customer table. I'm going to make a new layout, put some fields on it, and find active. You know, we can easily do an ad hoc search for active. Just say find active in the status field. That's not how this works here. You got to sort of, you know, grind up the clay and the mortar and build your own brick wall brick by brick here. So they're doing all this stuff. And the whole reason we're getting into these data containers and the records and stuff like that is because if you're in your app over here and you're talking to the database over here and it's over a wide area network, you might have network interruptions or latency or something like that, and the thing's going to feel slow. And slow is bad. Enterprise users don't like having a dog for their database application. So what you do is you create this little proxy. It's basically a cache file in your app. So you have your record that you're talking to, and then you have this container, and this container is going to be the front man for the back end at the mothership. And in due time, these things will sync up. But if you're trying to fly through and do data entry or a bunch of queries or stuff like that, this will make it feel fast, even though you're not really talking to this thing. They'll eventually catch up, but you can be way out of sync for a while. So they have this syncing paradigm that's completely different from FileMaker, because FileMaker is totally vertically integrated.
Yeah.
The data layer is integrated into the application layer. There's no separation at all there. So about the closest you could get to modeling something like this in FileMaker is doing external storage of container data or something like that. So
Yeah, or offline database, and you sync with MirSync or something like that.
Yeah.
So
this is very different, and implicit in this is that this sort of structure where you have this snappy little web app talking to a database backend is going to be slow. They built this structure for a reason, and that's because it doesn't perform well. And if you're sort of cheating to get good performance here, the cost that you pay for that is being out of sync with your data. And if it's extremely important, maybe you're selling tickets to a concert venue or something like that. If it's extremely important that you guys are all looking at the same data set, this isn't going to work well for that. If I'm in like Japan or Germany or something like that, and in the United States, and we're all going after the same seats at a concert venue, how's that going to work?
Yeah, or hospital beds in the hospital.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, from a comparison, when we were doing MirSync and we were doing server replication around the world, we could be out of sync by about 10 or 15, 20 seconds maybe, but to different servers around the world.
And for a lot of cases, that probably doesn't matter, but there's certainly some where it matters a lot.
Yeah, that mattered a lot. Yeah, because you don't want to have two people. If you have the hot concert or the hot ticket to go to, you have two people with row 5A, right, seat 5A, and they're like, damn, right? So, well, wow. So people are going, this is hurting their head. Right. In fact, this is why we love the net Lobster so much. So she shows up here. I'm going to pop this open here real quick. I'm going to minimize myself, and she's over here chatting away, right, doing what she does. It's so funny, right? So here's down here, she's like got our little memes going here, right? So it's great. So so yeah, funny stuff. So we got quite the character of group here. This is awesome. So yes.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief to get to the rest of the part, but just remember, these are all the steps in Airtable or Appian you have to go through to make one layout that allows you to find all active customers. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're still on Appian. All right, so one of the things about you're going to say this on every one of these is, oh, that's not low code, and I think a better term is lower code.
Low-ish code.
Low-ish or lower. I mean, you can say that about any kind of abstracted tool or language. Python is abstracted from C. About C. So it's just lower code.
All right. So now we've set up the sync. Now we have a data model. It's like, what is a data model? I know what a data model is in relational database design. It's when you draw the boxes and the lines, and you have an entity relationship diagram that sort of represents your data model. Here, see, we already talked to a data source at the beginning, and so now it's asking us to choose a data source again. So we have database process. You can talk directly to Salesforce. You can talk to some web service via an API. There's this sync. So this is a very important step. If you don't do this, then you're going to be talking to the thing directly, and it'll be laggy. So if you want to have a snappy app, that's the magic checkbox. So then we have to configure this source saying, okay, what are we pulling from this thing? So you might have a customer table with, say, 30 fields. I only want 6. And so here you're sort of building the equivalent of what fields you put on a layout in FileMaker. This is this big, not very attractive process, not very intuitive process. Here's the stuff I want to see. So you do that, and now we have to figure out, how do I only show the active records? And so we're going to say, hey, let's build a source filter. So configuring the data source filter, do that, we say active is true. And so, hey, the source filter is successfully applied. So that was like 3 or 4 steps to do that. Then we come out here and it's like, hey, we're done. Now we got to make sure our sync works. So it went and fetched a bunch of records for us so that when we actually go to use this, they'll be there, because we said this is a syncing app. So you have to load up your local container with whatever it's going to sync with. And we say, how often do we want that to sync? And so every day at 3 a.m. And so then we have this filter. This is equivalent to building a value list in FileMaker. So it's like, what's the label and what's the actual value that'll get stored in the thing? So they're going to set up west, east, etc. And so we have central. So that's the process for doing a value list. Here's a process for creating a constant. If you say, in FileMaker, I would just create a calculation field that says, hey, equal 1 or equal active or whatever I'm trying to get. Here it's this whole separate thing completely outside of the system. It's its own object type. And so here we're going to do a constant of active. Anyway, I didn't want to bore you with all these. So here's the expression rules, and here's this low code stuff. So I wanted to show you how low code this actually was.
Can we zoom in on that at all, or do you want me to zoom in on my end? Look at that.
Yeah, why don't you zoom in on your end? I intentionally didn't want to make people cry. So I just wanted to say it's a bunch of steps just to put a value list in there.
Okay, so I want to officially say, Ruben, you're a fantastic person. We love you here. But Ruben goes, oh, yeah, SQL's totally low code. And I go, Ruben, what the hell are you talking about? So Ruben says, this is what he says, right?
Ruben, bring it on the parade.
He goes, well, my background is in Oracle. I said, well, then yeah, maybe an SQL statement is low code for you. But I once again, it's from where you come from, right? But if you're an Oracle developer, and you like Kyle is here, and he dreams about JSON and SQL at night, and it gets him all hot and bothered and aroused, which is great. But Kyle's a pro coder, Ruben's a pro coder, so I'm not making fun of it, not at all. I mean, here's the thing with FileMaker. Can I make the statement for this? The reason all of us, it's why I have such a challenging time. It's why I have such a challenging time in doing the broadcast, is that we have low code people here, like Megan starting off, and then she's learning more. Then you have pro code people like Kyle and Chris Moyer and Ruben and all these other pro code people. And I try to keep it entertaining, but it's such a diverse community. Why is it diverse? Because FileMaker kicks ass at low code, and it gives you an entire ladder of progression to progress and to be a pro coder, right? You're not like stuck at drag and drop stupid no code. Right? Or low code. You can graduate and grow up. Some people like never get to pro code because they can do everything they want in the FileMaker platform with some scripts, maybe a plugin or two, maybe get Christian, a monkey bread in here a little bit, and they can get everywhere they want to go without any getting into what I would call nasty code. Nick Hunter would say, it's nasty. It's nasty. It's the way he says it with his French and Greek accent. But yeah.
I mean, the other thing, Richard, is I found Appian in a no-code feed that I started getting for us to look at competitors.
No. You said no code. You said no code.
Yeah, it's in a inside no-code feed I get is where I found out about Appian last week.
Well, okay, so let's just be clear. So I have a question I've been wanting to ask about this, right? And so you had the little part, and you guys can, I don't know, show your face or not show your face, wave your hands around. So I have some thoughts about this, but I'm not going to wander into this. But how are these companies $6 billion companies or whatever they are? And then
they got really good salespeople.
Okay. Well, because Claris is not a $6 billion company, right? At all, right? I would argue that Claris has probably not grown as much as they should. Why, I don't know, or I'm not going to speculate. But the point is that these people clearly, to me, have a definitively inferior tool, especially Airtable. And how does that have a higher vision? I mean, basically, Airtable is kicking ass on Excel and Post-it notes, I would guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, they took Google Sheets model and made it into a winner.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely not.
Hats off to them for that. That took talent.
That took it did, but I mean, it's a lot. I've listened to the Steve Jobs biography a couple times. I guess Walter Isaacson, and you listen to a book like this, or I do the audio book, and I'm listening to it, and you come to certain realizations, and a lot of times it's not the best product that wins.
Yep.
It's the product that is either more lucky, or there's more intensity and belief behind it, or the people behind it are more ruthless, or whatever you want to say they are, right? Or more skilled, or better communicators, or whatever it is. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, because I wouldn't cash FileMaker in for this, but yet this is $6 billion.
Well, exactly. And so if that's the question that you're sitting around, he says, oh, Appian's just as easy as FileMaker. You'll have no trouble taking to this. This is what you're going to, that's the alternative, right? You'd be doing this stuff. And sure, maybe after you spend several weeks doing this might feel a lot more familiar, but this is painful. And there are so many more steps to get stuff done. I mean, these screens right here are the steps it takes to make a drop-down list, do a find.
So this
I
is
need
a
to
drop
say-
down. This is a drop down list to do a find.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Higher UI.
So
lower
there's like
yeah.
2 more slides to get us to the finish line here. So here's how you actually make the view. So this is your UI editor. So all that stuff was preamble to just make the layout. So I want to make a new layout here, and we have a template form. So they just dragged, I think, this sucker over here and say, okay, what do we want to populate
some of those
that with?
some of those look kind of cool, right? I mean, I was like,
Yeah, some of those
some of
very
those were
well
like
be nifty.
I mean, does it really
Yeah.
like? I mean, like, right? You
It's
know,
kind of
so,
like the MMC paradigm here. You know, they got
Yeah.
the 3 panes going, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, a little chart. Got a little chart over here. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, yeah, so there's some cool stuff in here. But again, so this is what the thing looks like. So it said create from data type. So it took that data type that we cooked up and said, you know, I want these however many fields. And it just sort of vomited them in here. No rhyme or reason or anything like that. Whatever order they're in. If there's something that I don't want, like they had market cap in there and stuff like that. This is the final product, by the way. So this is the end result of all that effort, was to show some fields on the screen and stick their logo on here. But if you didn't want some fields, you know, we're in a web browser, so you have to right mouse button click on the field. Am I going to duplicate it? Am I going to delete it? Do I want to select its parent? And so to knock these out was like, you know, they took away 6 or 8 fields, I think, in this demo. And it was like 1632 clicks or something like that.
Nah.
Just to knock a bunch of
cannot.
fields out.
Listen, you're a liar. You are a liar. It cannot be that hard. This cannot
Serious
be
as
that
a heart
hard.
attack.
Where's the layout? Where's layout mode? And then I just want to like have layout mode, and I want to because listen,
this is layout mode right here.
Okay, so because FileMaker vomits fields on the layout too. Let's just be clear about that.
Sure,
so they
but
both
if I want to knock 20 of them out of the go, it's one drag.
Okay, so
and
then
then a
now
delete
can I
button.
reorganize this and move this down here and put this over here and then do that
One at a time, yes.
one at a time?
Yeah.
You mean I can't like shift click or something or command click? I'm clicking like I wanted to get all these and I wanted to grab them all and then move them.
Yeah, it's painful. It is painful to manipulate this. But anyway, yeah, this is layout mode. This is Appian's equivalent of layout mode.
Okay.
And so everything is its own discrete element, and if you want to do something to it, you have to select it and fire a popover and say, what am I doing with this thing? So anyway, that's the end result for Appian. And so you know, we're on probably slide 37 now, and sure, maybe 5 of those were preamble, but it took a bunch of actions and effort to do a very simple layout that would have been a piece of cake in FileMaker and would have taken most people like 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, what if you want to build an app and have a $6 billion company behind it, right? I mean, I did.
Right, and so that's
I'm
right?
just trying to understand how they got the $6 billion, and the product is this painful. Right? I'm just.
Yeah, the product is very cumbersome to use, but you know, theoretically, it has high scale, it has durability, it can take heavy loads. You know, if you need to get several thousand users on an app, this theoretically can do it and can scale up and down to take that burden. And so I think that's what they're selling. I'm not a fan of the UI at all, but that's Appian.
Okay.
Okay, so shall we do a quick recap of pros and cons? So you can talk to a whole bunch of different backends. FileMaker can too. They have some onboarding workshops that'll take you through this and make you quickly realize that you maybe don't want to do this. But I mean, it's the Mac truck of app builders, right? They have a trial version. They don't have a free tier. So they don't want to play with stinking community users. They want paying customers. I think the queries are really complicated, more complicated than they need to be to write. The UI tools are, I think, really in need of help. And by the way, just sort of taking a step back, that was Dan Weiss's findings with Mendix and Betty Blocks and OutSystems. I mean, these are really clunky, sort of sometimes buggy tools. You know, you'd be building a new layout or something like that, and the thing will hang on you, and just like, what the heck? So I think it was Betty Blocks in particular, where they're sort of got one foot in 2 different canoes, where they have a new version coming out, but only some of their screens are on the new version. So if you want to fix something, you have to roll back to the old UI to do that. And so it's really kind kind of a schizophrenic experience to work with it halfway like that. And he's like, "You're an 8-year-old tool. How'd you let it get into this state?" So
yeah, I mean, you can argue about what's low code or not low code, but I think these platforms do consider SQL low code, and I would too, compared to like COBOL or C, or I mean, it is lower code.
Yeah, lower code than like insanely pro code, but yeah. So so Christian Schmidt goes, does Claris have any onboarding web shots or an introduction video on the website? Pretty much most of the onboarding web shots and onboarding workshops and introduction videos come from this channel, Christian Schmidt. I don't know what planet you're on.
That is true. You're watching the onboarding videos here.
Yeah, you're watching. Yeah, this every day at 1 o'clock. Christian's like, yeah, well, where do they have that, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, they have a couple videos. They're not bad, but in terms of people enthusiastically jumping up and down every day at 1 o'clock to help people out, yeah, you're there already, Christian Schmidt. Hello. It's like I say, I have people ask questions like this, and it's like, what do you think we do here, Christian? Hello, is this the internet? Hello, internet. Anyone in there? Hello, right? What do you think we do here? All right, cool. Other questions?
Appian was not great, but it's pretty representative of a lot of the offerings out there. So we wanted to show it before we showed the cool one. I think Heidi.
Well, and the other thing is, I don't think you mentioned the no on-prem as the other.
Yeah, that is very pervasive, where most of these tools are cloud only. And so if you're a research facility or a hospital or a manufacturer who cannot be down and has to have their system on-prem, I think Mendix will go on-prem. But most of these others, it's like it's cloud or nothing. If you don't like it, do something else.
And to be fair, some of them in my little no-code feed do mobile apps, but most of these, they're browser only. So, how do you take pictures? How do you... Yeah,
Airtable has like a mobile app that will connect to your Airtable, but you have to have internet access. And if you on a mobile phone, you probably would, even if we had a customer once who was in a facility and someone was building a building next door and cut the line. They were down for days. And so, if you had a mobile phone, you probably wouldn't have that problem, but all the physical users would, on desktops. So anyway,
cool.
Let us move on from this less than ideal circumstance. So let's talk about Bubble. Heidi and I actually really like Bubble. They were founded. They were founded in 2012. They're a private company, so I don't have any sort of valuation on them. I really like their website. Super clear. What does it do? How much does it cost? What can you do with it? The marketplace is this. Here are some templates. Here are some plugins. Here are some people to help you. I mean, boom, boom, boom. Super clear. I love that about their website. And then the Academy. You want to see onboarding? To me, this is the Rolls Royce of onboarding technologies. I was dazzled. So let's take a look at this. This is their designer UI. In fact, I want to do one better than this. I want to open up Bubble. So here we are in Bubble. And if I wanted to build something, they have these lessons in the Academy. It's like, okay, I'll start a lesson. So if I click this, it's going to fire this thing up. It says, we're going to build a sign-up system. So this is the UI right here. We're live on the UI. It's fully functioning. So let's do something. So I'm going to start getting some inputs and let users type their password. So they first tell you what they're going to do, then they fly this little red arrow around, say, hey, grab input.
Oh, this is that stuff that Apple had back in the old days where you ask for help and the Mac would go, and then it would start circling stuff, and then it would circle stuff. Yeah, that's cool. I like
Change the placeholder. Let's call it email. So, I mean, to me, this is awesome.
And this is like
I'm feeling pretty warm and fuzzy right now.
Yeah.
Why don't we switch to this?
So
it's kind of a funny name, but it's a fun name. Bubble.
So we do that. We can move it around a little bit if we want. And it has little helper guidelines and so forth. And so for the placeholder, we'll type in password. And so you get the idea. I don't want to go on and on here, but I think it's just awesome how they have this little red, it's like the old Clippy from Microsoft flying around here going, hey, look over here, click on the map or click on the input.
Clippy.
And so this is 24/7 onboarding. You don't have to sign up for a coaching session. You don't have to sign up for a meeting. You just say go, and their website will start to teach you. I think that's pretty freaking awesome. I haven't seen anything this cool. Hey, there's Clippy. So anyway, I just wanted to show that because I thought this was unbelievably high quality onboarding. So a little share there. Let me find my deck. Okay, so that's Bubble. Very cool. They have plugins, and it's easy to install plugins and stuff like that. So on the whole, I thought this was head and shoulders better than Appian. And as far as user interface polish, look and feel, it's certainly the equal of Airtable in my book. I think this is a great, well-designed product.
Okay, is there a but anywhere here at all?
So the pros are kind of what we've been saying here, the in-browser training, native database. It can also act as a front end to Airtable. It can talk to APIs. It has a free tier. But again, it's web only. So unless you can get to a web browser, if you ever can't get to a web browser, you can't get to your app.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Besides, is that the only con? Because if it is, these guys are going to put everyone out of business, right?
But that's the thing. Appian is eating their lunch. That's amazing. They are older than Appian, and Appian is gigantic compared to these guys. I think there's like 30 employees in this whole thing. And to me, it's an awesome app. But
and I don't, I don't see Bubble out there on any of these webinar type things that we were showing earlier. So I don't see them out there as much.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have money to be out there doing that, and there has to be kind of an ROI. Obviously, the people at Appian and also probably Airtable have considerable marketing resources to throw.
Yeah, big war chests.
Yeah. Although, to be honest, Claire's has been around for 30 years. They should have more of a marketing war chest than that. But because the marketing war chest right now for them is pretty limited to little pictures of dogs smelling each other's rear ends, I think, for the most part, right? Like running with the dog thing or whatever. That's it, right? So
I wanted to talk about some specific use cases that all these web-only apps aren't great at, and that is stuff that works well on mobile devices. So if I go, like in Betty Blocks, if I were to search for how do I do barcoding, it's like no results found. Airtable apparently has a barcode field, but it's difficult to work with if you want to have Bubble do something with it. You have to have it talk to an Airtable table to do barcoding. Appian has a barcode field type, but none of these have great integration with a mobile device. So if you want to scan a barcode or if you want to take a picture.
So the limitations of WebDirect are in here. Is that what you're saying? Because that sounds to me like you're describing.
Because you're saying WebDirect.
I mean, FileMaker's WebDirect has like barcoding issues and integration issues because it's a web browser,
okay.
Right?
Yes, I understand you now. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. FileMaker has a dedicated client on mobile devices, and you get a ton of benefits from that because it has some great tricks like location capabilities and signature capture and barcode reading and all this kind of stuff that are just no-brainers for mobile, but you can't really do that with some of these big cloud tools.
And so this is a big differentiator for FileMaker against these other platforms here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because I mean, WebDirect, right? It's like, hey, let's get a signature on there. Well, it's kind of a hack and this and that. And then, we're going to do an add-on and do this and that. Whereas if you get FileMaker Go, some sort of, dedicated, app, you get some pretty damn good integration with that. It's like really, really good. So
I will give special props to Airtable here. If you use their Airtable client talking to their Airtable cloud instance, then you can use the camera like you can with, FileMaker Go on your mobile device to scan barcodes and QR codes. And so Airtable has a workaround, but Airtable is kind of it's weird because they have this sort of main spreadsheet basically. And then if you want to do anything cool with it, you have to connect to all these other services to make it do, anything complicated. So it's great at what it does, which is basically spreadsheet publishing. But as soon as you get off into the bushes at all, you're going to have to engage a whole bunch of other services. So it's like, Imagine you had to have 20 plugins with every FileMaker app just to do basic stuff.
Yeah, well, Christian Schmidt would tell you just need one good plugin, right?
He would.
Yeah, so he, because he's
in
here.
his plugin, he's right.
Yeah, but I mean, 6,000 functions. Yeah, I mean, FileMaker at the end of the day does a ton without anything else in it. And so, yeah, well, it's interesting. So there's not really a great tool for us to switch to and get rid of FileMaker. She's saying I should stay with FileMaker for the time being?
I absolutely would stay with FileMaker. I mean, FileMaker has so much simplicity and elegance that we just take for granted, because we're, those of us who work with it every day just sort of don't see it anymore because we're just used to working with it. But as soon as you try and look at some of these other tools, you're like, oh my God, how do these people handle this? It seems like it would take you 10 times longer to get anything done.
So, yeah, I'm trying to understand why there isn't more of an offensive. Now I understand why David Knight's been having a freak out for the last 5 years about this, right?
Yeah.
Because Claris has not fought at all with these people, at least in terms of, competitive.
Well, and the thing to me that's tragic is the thing that's best about FileMaker, that it kicks the ass of all comers here, with the possible exception of Bubble, is that its UI, its IDE, is amazing. It's simple, it's elegant, it's fast, it's easy to understand, it's easy to use. What you see is what you get. If I draw something on the layout and I go to print it, it's going to print exactly like that. We take all that stuff for granted, but nobody else does that. And so, one of their greatest strengths, they don't even talk about it. They don't ever talk about it.
And we've talked to people who have done, the trials, like we said, of these other products, and FileMaker is still the best product.
Yeah. It's not even close. I mean, you saw how painful it was going through all those Appian screens to build one freaking layout.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you think about how much developer time costs these days, and you take 10 times longer on this other platform, that is not a cheaper platform. That's a way more expensive platform.
And then you can't use barcodes or anything on your mobile devices because they don't do mobile apps,
yeah.
They only do web.
Tons of trade-offs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, well.
Anyway, that kind of brings us in for the landing here. So this
yeah.
is our last slide. We mentioned Mendix will run on premises, but most don't have mobile or desktop true clients. You're using a web browser basically. And so FileMaker's, whoops, I have a typo there. Sits much better to build stuff. The output stuff that you can do with FileMaker. I mean, once upon a time, I think people talked about doing database publishing out of FileMaker. Like if you were in the catalog business or something like that, back when people printed stuff on paper.
Oh yeah.
FileMaker rocked that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of obsolete now because everything's on the web, but most other platforms just do not do that well.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on all of these points here, but that integrated tech stack, I think if you go on Crunchbase and, look up these different platforms, it'll say, here's the literally 57 technologies that these things use. And FileMaker is a completely vertical integrated tech stack. The script writer, the UI designer, the database backend itself is all integrated in a single thing. And so the speed of communication between all those elements is really fast. And you don't have the lag that you have with these other tools that are having all these interconnected conversations between the different components. FileMaker is super fast.
Okay, so Timothy Bulwark says on YouTube, so why does FileMaker / I guess Claris, why does Claris not have more presence, or is their own $5 billion company? ?
Well, who's to say what Claris's valuation would be if they were to be, once upon a time, Claris was supposed to be spun out of Apple and then they spun them back in. So who knows what kind of valuation they would have. But, valuations tend to be driven by stories. And some of these have stories of, oh, we're getting lots of new clients, or we're penetrating these Fortune 500 companies. And so those narratives drive stock price. And, with the pandemic winding down and Appian not having a great story to tell of, sustained uptake, new takers of their platform, their stock got creamed. So losing 60% of your value has got to be painful for some of those people who are probably really loving life for a while there.
Yeah.
Well, the other point to make here is you look at the names. If you stack up all these names, Airtable, Appian, FileMaker, Bubble, OutSystems, Betty Blocks, Mendix. How does
Zoho, yeah.
Zoho? How does FileMaker name stack up there? If you're just looking at names and deciding what to look at.
Yeah, part of the problem is that FileMaker, since it's a 30-year-old product, is talking about files and files, filing cabinets, pieces of paper and stuff like that. I think the name sort of holds it back as opposed to Airtable, which sounds like it's in the cloud. Appian, it has the word app in its name. And so a lot of these other names are more modern sounding. I like FileMaker, but I think for new users who are looking for something cutting edge, it doesn't sound cutting edge.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to be careful with that one. There's the install base looks at that. I in my opinion, it's somewhat different than your opinion. I think the word FileMaker needs to stay, but you could everything around the word FileMaker was negotiable, right?
Yeah.
So,
but if they called it Flintstones tomorrow, you and I would still know what it was, and we'd still use it.
Yeah, but the question would the other people in, a lot of other people who buy the product pay attention to it once a year for a license renewal. Would they pay attention to it, and would they, they would probably come along, but I worry about that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So you can SEO your way out of that, right?
Well, I guess you could. They'd have to decide they'd want to do that, right? So, for this, this is great for you guys, but for a guy with books in market, videos in market,
that's true.
That's like a super.
Oh yeah, so that's an existential threat.
So for me, it's like,
yeah, that's right. We didn't say that.
Yeah, you guys suck officially, right? So because I'd have to find. It would be, yeah. So anyway, well. Besides changing the name,
you guys. See you next time.
Anyone have a spare $250,000 at least? So, well, welcome to the world of competing concept with FileMaker. So, Carol from Oakland says, totally agree. FileMaker, the word doesn't sound very capable. Right, yeah. So, it's just, I guess that's a good question, good point, right? So, but what are you going to call it? Listen, if you're going to go back and call it and you wanted to leverage the word Apple, to me, I would have just scratched the word entirely and just gone and called it Apple something, right? At least you could leverage that. But Claris, no one knows what the hell Claris is, except the people from 30 years ago. So, right? you find that? Who? So, if you were going to do it, it's like the commercial. The best commercial would be like, build a custom application with the Apple app file platform, whatever, right? So, put the word Apple in there, right? So. Yeah.
So
anyway.
Supposedly, Bill Campbell was the first president of Claris when it got spun out. And supposedly, he and a couple other guys went to the Old Pro. You probably know where that is. It's a bar. And they sat down there with a dictionary and just started flipping through it, trying to find the name. And they came across Claris, which it was spelled Clarus. And I think it's Latin for clarity. Like, hey, that's a great name. Let's do that, but let's tweak a little bit so we can copyright it or trademark it. And so that's where Claris came from. It was flipping through a dictionary at a bar.
Oh, Bill Campbell. Yeah, he's in that book talking about jobs quite a bit, right? He was one of those kind of key people back at the time. So,
Ouch.
All right, well, there you go. Because right now there's a Claris Medical Healthcare. There's all sorts of Clarises now. So, So, cool. Well, it's a really excellent broadcast. You folks have kicked some epic amount of today. I want to thank you for this. I honestly, for those of you wondering, I was concerned because I didn't know what was going to happen today, right? So I was like, they might come in here and they might show something. Like Bubble is troubling that the UI is that good, to be honest with you.
It is good. And I'm just amazed that these other ones aren't. They have these gigantic market caps. Like, how did they get that with those Tinker Toy interfaces? It's amazing.
Well, that's been a big business thing lately because a lot of people came back and said, oh, well, if you're Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever, this COVID thing should really help you. And there's been some businesses who should have really exploded and grown who haven't during COVID. Yeah. And now things are kind of like going to stabilize and some people are going to come back to the office. What that looks like long term, who knows? But clearly, whatever rage there was for if you're in the business of making masks, you're out of business now. There's a saturation of that, and that's over, right? So you better be in a different business besides printing little masks that go on your face, right?
I think all the manufacturers of stuff that's been hoarded, like toilet paper or what have you, the storage closets are full of that stuff, so they're going to have a down quarter for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a big down quarter for all that stuff. So anyway, yeah. So I'm really glad. Yeah, AppMaker would be great. Alpha Coburn 73, ACA Coburn. Yeah, great idea. AppMaker. I would take that. I don't know if Apple could buy anything, but yeah.
Yes, they could.
You could leave FileMaker on the front and just have AppMaker be a nickname.
Yeah, I would do that because then it would change. Yeah, that would then it wouldn't be so radically different. It would still kind of feel, and I wouldn't feel like I've been totally, all my content had been horribly destroyed and blown up, right? So
yeah, I'm trying to take myself out of that hole.
Yeah, you guys were like talking. Yeah, they should definitely get rid of the word FileMaker, and I'm being very quiet on the call, going,
Like, shut up.
Don't do that. No. Carol from Oakland, I got to go. Very interesting. Fantastic. Thank you. Have a long weekend. Reminder, we will not be broadcasting Monday. If you want to see more of the Moyer Group, you need to send them a note. How do they contact you if they want to hire you or tell you that you're great or you guys just suck ass? How do they get a hold of you?
Website is moyergroup.com.
Yeah, but if they want to email you, right? Like
info
at moyergroup.com.
Info at moyergroup.com. So feel free to tell them what you like, what you didn't like, if you want them to come back, if you want to hire them, hourly rate. I'm sure if you throw enough money at him, you can do that. And then Marcus, the kitty. Where is the kitty? Is your cat there? Everyone's asking about the cat.
They hit the road. They didn't like Appian.
Okay. That would be another good name for a cat. What's your cat's name? Appian. What's my cat's name? Bubble, right? All right, cool. That's it for the day. I appreciate everyone. We'll have a good one, and we'll catch you Tuesday, right?
All right.
Thanks.
Good chatting. See you.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected. The quarterback, great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.